Hello everyone, we're still trying to set up our film studio. Therefore, this video is still narrated by AI. Thank you for all the support and love. Enjoy the video.
Hello everyone, welcome to Crime Search. In this video, we are once again taking a break from murder cases and taking a look at the story of a famous bandit from the United States. In 2010, a barefoot bandit made a sudden appearance in the United States. He lived in the forest all year round, making a living by stealing. After each crime, he would draw a footprint on the scene with chalk to leave a mark to tell others that he was here. Later, this person even stole planes and boats. Because he liked to walk barefoot, people called him the Barefoot Bandit. Who was he, and how did he do all of this? Let us dive deeper into the story of Colton Harris Moore. The protagonist of the story is named Colton Harris Moore. He was born in 1991 and grew up in an unfortunate family. Colton's father went to prison when he was very young, and his mother also had a drinking problem and neglected Colton's well-being. It can be said that he felt no warmth from his family as a kid. Colton's home was located in Washington State, in the northwest of the United States, adjacent to Canada. In the northwest of the state, there is a county called Island County, which is composed of several islands, such as Camano Island and Whidbey Island. Colton lived on Camano Island, surrounded by forests and beautiful scenery. It is considered an ideal vacation spot, with many vacation homes built here. During the summer season, there is a lot of traffic here. However, during the off-season, most of these vacation homes are vacant. In 1998, 7-year-old Colton went to school. He was a quirky little boy who would argue with his teachers at school but was very popular with his classmates. He liked small animals and airplanes. In his spare time, Colton would use binoculars to watch planes take off and land near the airport. He would watch for the whole day and become obsessed with it. He dreamed of becoming a pilot and loved studying various airplanes. He was able to accurately identify the model of each airplane. At home, Colton's mother became increasingly hostile towards him, sometimes even beating and scolding him. To escape his mother, 7-year-old Colton would take his puppy to the nearby forest. As time went by, Colton went to middle school and he was often bullied by other classmates. A boy named Harley stood up for Colton and protected him. After some time, the two became good friends. Harley learned that Colton often lived in the forest due to family reasons and lacked food. Harley claimed that he had a solution to solve this problem, which was stealing. 12-year-old Colton followed Harley and they broke into the empty vacation homes on Camano Island. Not only there was food, some owners even left money there. Therefore, Colton and Harley often visited these houses. After eating and drinking, they would sleep comfortably on the beds. They were not worried about the homeowners coming back. In addition to visiting vacation homes, the two would steal cars. They would drive around and fill up the gas before returning the car. For a long time, no one discovered the behavior of the two teenagers. Only after visiting more than 100 vacation homes, someone reported the thefts. After an investigation, the police successfully identified and captured Colton and Harley. As the two were still young, they were released after being detained for 10 days. In 2007, Colton turned 16 years old. He and his good friend Harley were about to become legal adults. If they were caught again by the police, they won't get away with it easily. Harley always blamed Colton for running faster than him. As a result, Harley was caught several times, while Colton always managed to escape. Because of this, Harley planned to quit stealing. Colton had to act alone after Harley left, so he continued to sneak into various vacation homes on the island. One night, he broke into a vacation home and bumped into the owner. He was then caught and taken to the police station. Then he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for theft. As Colton was still a minor, he was sent to a halfway house to serve his sentence. The halfway house is specifically designed to receive prisoners who are about to be released from prison. It provides necessities, food, and accommodations to help them transition and adapt as soon as possible. While in the halfway house, Colton longed for freedom. He wanted to fulfill his childhood dream of flying a plane freely in the sky. So he made a bold decision to escape from the halfway house. In April 2008, Colton had been living in the halfway house for several months. During this time, he found that the security was the most lax at night and there were almost no guards. Therefore, he decided to take advantage of this discovery. Late at night, when his roommates were all asleep, he tiptoed barefoot out of the room, picked up his backpack, and walked to the window. This was his habit for many years because walking barefoot wouldn't make any noise. Colton jumped over the window and then over the high wall without anyone noticing. He escaped from the halfway house without a trace. Then he stole a car nearby and drove all the way back to his home on Kamano Island. When he got home, he saw his mother. His mother didn't say anything and just stared at him and watched Colton leave with his little dog and headed into the forest. Colton once again had nothing and needed to survive. He found his good friend Harley again. He thought that acting alone was unsafe and wanted Harley to partner with him again. Harley agreed to help him, and the two were back in the stealing business. At first, Colton only stole food, but he found that he needed more gear to deal with the danger in the wilderness. Therefore, after sneaking into a house, he used the owner's computer and credit card to buy the necessary items online. He wrote the house address as the delivery address. A few days later, he came back to the house and stole the purchased items. As the summer season approached, some homeowners returned to their vacation homes on Kamano Island. They not only found that their property had been stolen but also found various signs of people living in the house. There were a few dirty footprints on the floor. As more and more people reported the case, the police traced it back to Colton. However, Colton disappeared back into the forest. He roamed around in the wilderness, and the police could not find him for a while, so they had to try setting up an ambush in some vacation homes to catch him. Despite police's best efforts, Colton and Harley managed to escape the ambush and even taunted the police as they escaped. Later, Colton gradually came up with a bolder idea to steal an airplane. Harley immediately opposed it when Colton told him. He thought Colton's idea was too crazy. Since they couldn't reach a mutual agreement, they went on their separate ways again. Colton returned to the forest with his little dog and started learning how to fly airplanes through various methods, such as reading flight manuals, watching videos online, and training himself through some flight simulation games. On an evening, in November 2008, 17-year-old Colton sneaked into the Orcas Island airport. He saw several small planes parked at the airport, and there was a 4-meter-high wired fence surrounding the airport with some staff walking back and forth. However, breaking through such security measures was a piece of cake for Colton. He went to a corner, climbed over the fence, and chose a Cessna 182 airplane. He had already flown this model many times in computer flight simulation games. Without being noticed, he opened the cockpit and stole the flight manual. On that day, Colton did not plan to steal the airplane. Instead, he came to do some preparation work. After a few days, Colton started the operation. In the middle of the night, he pried open the doors of the hangar and soon found the Cessna 182 airplane from a few days ago. He took out the rope he had prepared beforehand and dragged the plane to the outdoor apron. Then, he sat in the cockpit, started the engine, and saw the controls in front of him were almost identical to the ones in the flight simulator game. Colton was too familiar with it. After moving the airplane from the apron to the runway, he took a deep breath and accelerated the engine to full throttle. The airplane moved faster and faster on the runway. When it reached full speed, Colton pulled the control stick lightly, and the airplane took off smoothly. This was Colton's first time flying a real airplane at the age of 17. No one would have thought that this guy, who had not even taken a day of formal training, could really get the airplane in the air. Colton climbed the airplane to 4,000 meters according to the flight path in the flight simulator game, and the airplane shuttled through the clouds and flew over the Cascade Range. This was the first time Colton experienced such a scenery at high altitude. However, he didn't plan to fly for too long. After enjoying himself, he planned to return. However, the airplane had not been refueled before takeoff, and now the fuel in the tank had been depleted, causing the engine to stall in midair. Colton decided to glide to San Juan Island. Unfortunately, the airplane did not reach its destination and crashed in a field outside Yakima, Washington. Although the airplane was damaged, fortunately, there were no casualties. Colton only suffered minor injuries and then escaped. The next day, airport staff reported the airplane stolen. It turned out that the owner of the stolen Cessna 182 airplane was a well-known host of a Seattle radio station. The police initially suspected that a professional group was responsible for the crime, but Colton thought the police had already targeted him. Therefore, he did not dare to return to Kamano Island but fled to Nevada from Washington. He lied about his age and worked in a local casino for 6 months until the situation had subsided. Then he returned to his hometown. One day in September 2009, less than a year after his last visit, Colton returned to the Orcas Island airport. Using his old methods, he successfully stole his second airplane. That night, Colton flew the plane from Orcas Island Airport to San Juan Island, 33 kilometers away, and landed successfully. After arriving on San Juan Island, Colton continued his operation. He would break the cameras and pry open doors to steal food. Not only that, but he also attempted to use a forklift to break into an ATM machine to steal cash. In just a few months, Colton committed over 20 thefts on San Juan Island. After each crime, Colton would draw his footprints with chalk and write "See ya" to taunt the police. The police were furious with Colton and vowed to catch the arrogant barefoot teenager. They launched an operation on San Juan Island and released photos of Colton from the surveillance footage to the public. Shortly after, locals reported seeing Colton in forests, but he had already moved on. The police had no choice but to go to Colton's home to ask his mother about his whereabouts. Colton's mother said she hadn't been talking to him for a while, leaving the police with no choice. Colton got wind of the news and realized he had to leave. He stole a boat at the pier and sailed to Abbotsford, Canada. When he arrived, he needed a place to stay, and he saw a car parked on the roadside. Colton approached the owner and asked for a ride. The owner saw that Colton was covered in mud and barefoot, so he kindly offered him a ride. During the trip, the owner noticed that Colton seemed to be afraid of the police and looked like the Barefoot Bandit from Washington State who was on the news. The car owner did not report to the police, but instead gave him some food and let him get out of the car. At this time, Colton realized that he was recognized and must escape as soon as possible. After less than a month of arriving in Canada, 18-year-old Colton went to Idaho, USA, but he still missed his hometown. If he drove back by land, he would easily be caught by the police. In order to return home, Colton prepared to steal a third plane from Idaho and fly home by air. Colton went through several airports and finally decided to take action at an airport that had the weakest security. Based on his previous 2 experiences, Colton stole another plane and successfully took off. He piloted the plane and arrived smoothly in Washington State. However, during the landing process, due to improper operation, the plane crashed into a field near the Granite Falls in Washington State. Colton was lucky to survive again. Local residents immediately reported the crash, but Colton escaped again. 4 months later, Colton arrived at the Anacortes Airport in Washington State and stole another plane worth $650,000. He flew the plane to Orcas Island and made an emergency landing in the forest. Local residents immediately reported the incident to the police, who realized that the Barefoot Bandit had returned. Colton, as before, committed thefts in the area and left footprints, some of which he made himself and some of which he drew with chalk. To taunt the authorities, he uploaded selfies of himself smiling fearlessly on Facebook. Colton's actions caused a sensation on the internet, and within a few days, he had gained 60,000 followers. A man in Seattle even made t-shirts with Colton's photo on them to capitalize on his notoriety. Colton committed over 100 thefts in Washington State, Idaho, Nebraska, and Illinois, causing an estimated $3 million in damages or losses. Border Patrol, Homeland Security, and the FBI were all searching for him in the Pacific Northwest. The Barefoot Bandit was more famous than any other criminal. 3 months later, someone found a handwritten note and $100 in a pet clinic in Washington State. The note read, "I happened to be driving by and had some extra cash. Use it to take care of animals." It was signed Colton Moore, Camano Island, Washington State, June 2010. Police continued to investigate in Idaho, South Dakota, Nebraska, and Illinois throughout June. Many people reported that their vehicles had been stolen and later found in other states, likely due to Colton switching cars. The FBI offered a $10,000 reward for information leading to Colton's arrest. Two months after leaving the note at the pet clinic, Colton's crimes had made national news. Colton knew that if he continued like this, he would eventually be recognized by someone, so he decided to steal another plane and escape from the United States. One night, Colton arrived at an airport in Bloomington, Indiana. He climbed over a 4-meter-high wired fence and used a special device to break the security system. He then entered the apron and took off with a Cessna 400 plane worth $600,000. He flew the plane 1,900 kilometers to Great Abaco Island in the Bahamas, where the plane ran out of fuel and crash-landed on the coast. Colton was unharmed. After receiving the alert, Bahamian police arrived at the scene. One landing gear of the plane was damaged, and it appeared that the plane was trying to maintain its level to land, but the nose still plunged into the bushes. The cockpit door was locked, but no one was inside. Bahamian police speculated that Colton was most likely responsible for the incident. With this, the Barefoot Bandit became international news. Not long after arriving on Great Abaco Island, Colton stole a yacht at the dock and escaped to the nearby Eleuthera. He wandered barefoot in the local bar and would occasionally steal some food. The next night, Colton stole a jet ski at the dock on Eleuthera and chatted with the local young people, but he didn't expect the young man to immediately recognize him. The young man chased Colton on his boat, but Colton easily evaded him. Colton then went to the Remora Bay Resort and left the jet ski behind and ran on land. At this time, a patrolling security guard spotted him and recognized him as the Barefoot Bandit. The security guard did not want to deal with him, but Colton ran too fast and he collided with the guard in the dark. Then Colton managed to escape into the bushes. After receiving the security guard's report, the police searched the nearby beaches and docks, and the news of Colton's escape to Eleuthera quickly spread. The military and civilians on the island were alerted. While the police were searching, Colton had already evaded their blockade and swam away in the dark. The police did not notice a boat quietly leaving the area, and Colton was in that boat. A guy named Jordan Sackett, who was watching the police search operation from his own yacht, saw the boat leaving. Sackett immediately reported it to the police. The police tossed Sackett's boat and accelerated to catch Colton. Luck did not always favor Colton this time. His boat hit the reef in the diving area and got stranded. The police caught up with him and he threw his laptop backpack into the water before surrendering. The police later found the backpack, which contained a sketch of an airplane, 2 photos of Colton when he was a child, and his Boy Scout card. It appeared that the 19-year-old Colton still missed his childhood. He lived his life in his own way, and some people sympathized with his childhood experiences, but Colton must be held responsible for the crimes he committed. In July 2010, after more than 2 years on the run, Colton was officially arrested. The next day, he was extradited back to the United States. A large number of media were already waiting outside the airport. With a height of 1.96 meters tall, he stood out in the crowd, still walking barefoot. The police went to Kamano Island to find his mother and informed her of her son's arrest. Colton's mother appeared very calm. She told the police, "I'm glad he's safe. I love him and miss him." More than a year later, Colton Moore was convicted of theft and other charges and sentenced to more than 7 years in prison, along with a fine of $129,000 by the Island County Superior Court in Washington State. In 2013, after serving more than 2 years in prison, Colton was noticed by a manager from Boeing. Colton's passion for airplanes and his potential impressed the manager. He visited Colton in prison and encouraged him to learn systematically after his release. Perhaps there would be an opportunity for him to work at Boeing in the future. Colton expressed his hope that he could be released soon and repay those who had helped him. In July 2016, after serving more than 6 years in prison, Colton was transferred to a halfway house near Seattle, which meant he was about to be released. This time, Colton did not escape like last time. He found a desk job at a law firm where his defense lawyer worked. During his time in prison, he realized the mistakes of his past behavior and was determined to start a new life. The only thing that did not change was his passion for airplanes. After his release, he will pursue his dream of flying again through legitimate means. We wish him good luck in his future career.
Thank you guys for watching. Stay safe and stay alert.